Hi, welcome back to my channel. So my name's Fawn from Hey Miss K on Instagram. You can find videos on my channel about going back to the basics of good online ESL teaching, as well as a ton of videos on the hiring process and getting hired with VIPKid. So today's video is actually going to be for teachers, online ESL teachers that need to find ways to extend during assessments. Right there. We sometimes get students that are super fast and they can finish that assessment within minutes. So depending on your platform, depending on the company that you work for, you might have to think of ways to extend that lesson to the full amount of time that it's supposed to be. Now, I work for VIPKid and our lessons are 25 minutes. And I have students that will just run right through that lesson. I mean, they can answer every question without a doubt, and quickly and easily and well. And then there are just also assessments that are very easy, I would say. Actually, there aren't very many questions, and instead of open-ended questions, they're just, circle the right answer, and so that's done fairly quickly as well. Anyway, so here are my ideas to help you out when it comes to extending during assessments. So the first thing I want you to do is actually to get familiarized with your assessment. So if you haven't taught this one before, check it out before you teach it. I mean, you should do this anyway. But I'm just reiterating that. Make sure you know what you're going to teach, and you will see as you're looking through the assessment if it's going to be a fast one with easy questions, simple questions, or if there is a lot of conversation and if there is a lot of reading for the student to do. And then once they've finished all that reading, are there many questions, open-ended questions that they need to answer? Those take a lot more time, especially when there are many answers possible. One thing that I also like to do as I'm teaching, going through the assessment, again, it depends on the company that you work for, but usually for VIPKid, there are about 20 questions and we teach for 25 minutes. So I like to stay around that time. When I'm on question 5 or 6, I should be around minute 5 or 6 or 7. You want to stay around that time. So if you're already at question 10 and you're 5 minutes in, then whoa, like I need to slow down. I need to find ways to extend this lesson with the student. Okay, and there are some obvious ways to extend that I know that you're already doing, but there are also ways that might not be so obvious, and that's what I want to talk about today. I want to give you those tricks so that you can use it when you're teaching. Okay, so the first thing I like to do, something that I think it's a lot of fun too, is to actually ask them why it's not another answer. So if they had to circle the right answer, now tell me why it's not A. Why is it B? And like a simple example would be, there are two pictures. One is the bird is drinking, and the other is the birds are drinking, right? And there's a picture of one bird and there's a picture of 3 birds. So when they circle the right one, the bird is drinking, I ask, but how do you know it's this? And then they have to explain that, look, there are 3 birds here. So the birds, the S shows that it's plural, right? So obviously they're going to explain it in their own way, but that is a fun way and an easy way for you to get more time and also to check their understanding of how did you know that it's not this one? And sometimes there are really funny answers, like my latest one was the cat is in the table. So I literally drew a cat in a table and we just had to laugh like, whoa, obviously it's not that answer because the cat is in the table instead of on the table. That was the right answer. Okay, so asking them why it's not the wrong answer is a great way to extend. Another thing that I like to do is to actually ask them to make sentences. So if they're working on vocabulary words or if they're working on sight words, they might just need to read them. Ask them to actually make a sentence with those sight words. Now you can ask them to use one sight word, but you could also ask them, if they did it easily with 1 or 2 words, and say, all right, now I want you to use 2 of those sight words in one sentence. And then you can keep challenging them. Now add 3 of those sight words in one sentence. And that is a lot of fun because now you're really, really getting them to think of ways to incorporate those words so that their sentence makes sense. And if you're doing phonics, an easy way is just to add more words. But you can also just work on the sound and challenge them by adding something else that they haven't learned. So if the phonics words are with at and an, clearly you're working on the short A sound. So you might want to add in am or ab. So although they haven't been practicing those sounds, they do know the short A sound. So throw in those words. All right, you can read this and this, mat, rat, ban, fan. Okay, great. What about this one? Show me what you know, right? So again, it's kind of getting them to do something more without just doing the same thing over and over. So now you're challenging them with something new, and obviously you can. It's the way you deliver it too. Like, all right, I see what you're doing. I know you got this. Show me, do you know this, right? And you're just giving them a little wink and like, what about this? What about that? And then they always feel so proud when they can read it, because they should be able to, since they already know at and at. So those are some fun things to do, or a fun thing to do with phonics words. Having your students spell it out is another way to get them to think a little more than just being able to circle or read the sight word or vocabulary word. You can tell them to close their eyes and they have to spell it out. You can tell them to write it on a piece of paper without looking at the screen. Depending on your lesson, we with VIPKid always have a blank screen at the end of the lesson, so I can jump to that and have them spell it out there. I can also mix up the words. Sorry, I can also mix up the letters. So if my word is cat, I might do something like this, cat, and then they have to put it in order. Okay, cat, C-A-T. Now, obviously, this one is very easy. You're gonna have more challenging words, but by mixing it up and giving them the letters, they should be able to do it. And again, you're just adding on time to your assessment, to your lesson. Have them make their own sentences with the verbs that they're learning, or the verbs that you're asking them to conjugate. If it's eat, then you might ask them to say, okay, or they read I eat an apple, and they have to choose between eat or eats. And great, so then you grab one of your props and you can say, what do I eat? And then they have to use you eat. What is this? A cookie. And I, again, love to kind of switch it up. And I don't know, like I can grab my dino and I can say, I eat dino. You know, is that okay? And usually it's not okay. They laugh and say, no, stop, teacher, don't do that. So I can just grab whatever I have. I can grab my mouse. Can I eat that? So again, have fun with it. And in the higher levels, you're going to have more difficult tenses. So if it's a present perfect tense, obviously now you're challenging them just by thinking of their own sentences, or you can give them a verb that they need to use it in the correct tense, and you can throw in a vocabulary word as well. So there are many possibilities right there. Another more obvious trick is to have them ask you the question. So after you've asked them the question, they've answered the right answer, then they can ask you the same question and see what you come up with. And then you can again trick them, give them a wrong answer and see if they catch it. And if they do catch it, tell them to give you the right answer. So just have them ask you questions throughout the assessment. As you're going through the assessment, can also extend that time. Now, you can also talk about the rewards that they get. So if you're giving them rewards, or once again, I'm using my company as an example, they get a reward as they go through the levels. And sometimes they get a toy, or they get an animal that they saved. So those are easy conversation starters. Oh, great, you got an elephant, or you saved the elephant. What does an elephant have, right? So ears or a trunk. You can just spend some time talking about the reward as they go through the assessment, and One of them that I like to do too is when we're talking about moving our body parts or how animals move. Well, that's how we're going to get to the next level. So if they got a fish, and how does a fish move? It swims. So then we're going to swim to level 3 and spend some time swimming and maybe going down, coming back up. So again, having fun with your students really helps make the lesson more engaging, and also just keep it going and keep that rhythm of fun and learning going. Lastly, just teaching them something new is extending. So if you're learning about animals, throw in an animal that was not part of the unit. Throw in maybe a movement. Throw in anything that they might not have learned. So as you're going through the assessment, especially if you're at the end of the assessment, then you can really start telling them, teaching them things that they might not have known. You can grab a book, if it's about sharks. You can just show them, did you know there are many different sharks and not all sharks have teeth? So you can just spend some time talking about that. And I'm giving you all these ideas because you really don't want to end with 15 minutes left at the end of your lesson to just free talk. Parents like it somewhat structured. So I mean, if you end with 5 minutes left, that's totally fine, and you can do some free talk there. But if you're going to fly through the assessment and you're not going to try and slow your student down throughout the assessment, that's a lot of time to spend at the end just playing games or free talking. So that's why I'm teaching you all these different tricks to extend during the assessment so that you can finish on time at a good pace and the parent really feels like it was structured and helpful. So that is one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, because I've seen this question come up several times. What do you do with those students that really know their stuff and can just fly through it all? And my go-to game that I play with my students at the end, so if we do have some time at the end of class, is tic-tac-toe. But again, I try and make it educational. So instead of just putting an X or an O, they have to put a word there. So they're practicing their spelling again, or they have to make a sentence. So as they're putting their X, I wait for them to actually make a sentence with the vocabulary words that they've learned or the sight words that they've learned in that unit. And I could extend it to any unit or anything that they know, but I usually like reusing the words that we've just been talking about and that they've just learned. So that's another way that you can extend at the end without it just being games, and the parents might think, oh gosh, like my child wasn't learning for the last 10 minutes of that lesson. So those were my tips for extending during assessments. Now you can follow me on Instagram. I like to post tips and tricks on there too in my stories. Please hit subscribe and like this video. Ask me any more questions that you still might have after watching this video. Another video that you can go check out is my video on feedback. I go through the steps on writing good feedback to get good feedback from the parents. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye guys.